Hey, party people, welcome to another exciting episode of CyberSoul with me, Jamie Murphy. Um, Bit of a different vibe today. I wanted to give you guys some more context around CyberSoul, the initiative, and really what I'm trying to achieve, what we're trying to achieve. Um, I ask all of my guests to come on and bare their soul. It's all about the people and the story behind the business. And that really is what, for me, it's all about, is around how can we share some stories um, that hopefully people can get something from around whether, being yourself and really trying to achieve whatever you want that goal to be. And, you paving your own way to get there. And hopefully from the stories and the tales we're telling that everyone can take a little bit from and also have a bit of fun as well. It's all about the people. In previous podcasts and conversations, I've talked a little bit about my background and my journey, albeit a little bit unconventional and a bit of an obstacle course to get where I wanted to be. Um, but I was lucky that I found my own journey and had a wonderful career. I want to bring you up to speed a little bit in terms of sharing the stories around Cyber Business Growth, the business that I set up in 2016, because for me it's really important to give you some context there. I set the business up really in, I would say, unconventional and unfortunate circumstances. I'd had a wonderful career. I worked at a brilliant company for some really wonderful people. But in 2016, um, my wife was diagnosed with terminal cancer, which was, as you can imagine, majorly distressing. She'd suffered and was ill prior to that, but really at that point, I knew that I would have to take a different trajectory in life and that I needed to change what I was doing. After working for great companies and great people for 25 years, I really needed to make that change so I could adapt my lifestyle, um, but still do the things that I love doing, which was communicating with people, solving problems, which, is the fire in my belly, which keeps me moving. After making the initial decision to set up my business, I started to look at where my strengths and weaknesses were and really what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. How could I learn from the things that I love doing, maybe the things that I didn't as well, and how can I put that into a really simple plan um, to try and take my life forward, which I knew was going to be, totally different, where I would be responsible, as the primary and only carer for my two girls. So how could I build a business and a lifestyle which would accommodate that? So I really started to look at, the marketplace that I was working in, which was cybersecurity, and looking at really where the gaps were, which is where I got the original concept around bridging the skills gap, which was very much there in 2016, and it is even more in place today. So even that embryonic feeling of where the market was all around building a business based on quality, and at the forefront of my thinking right from the start, as my business and my plan grew, was about putting amazing people around me who shared my passion and shared my desire. And equally, when I was building my first clients, it was people who shared that energy and ethos as well. So, without being too deep, too raw, you know, I can honestly speak that, something as tragic and as devastating that happened to me can create something positive. And I don't want to pretend that, I had this amazing business plan and this long-term strategy, because my strategy's been formed now as I've been in business now for a few years. Um, because sometimes shit happens and we can't control that. It's just about how we adapt and move forward with it. And I am actually blessed that I've had the support of my family and my friends around me to enable me to do this. So, you know, big up everyone who's supported me, because without that, it wouldn't be. Um, but I truly believe there is a way forward from any given circumstance. I look back fondly at when I was setting CBG or Cyber Business Growth up. Um, there were many things that I didn't know or didn't understand. I kind of knew what I was good at, and it was really important for me to get insight from people around me who, whilst mentorship is quite a big word, and we've discussed that on other podcasts. I think influence is an advice is equally as powerful. And I remember talking to a number of people when I was at NTT, when I knew I was moving on to do something else, talking about, what I should focus on, what were the ups and downs, and the advice that I got from those around me, which was, are fundamental to, how I've built a business with longevity. And I look back and I appreciate that. There were people like Jan Davis, who runs a really successful marketing business. She was working with us at NTT, and like she had the personality and the positivity that just gave you confidence. And that really resonated with me. And I remember sitting down or up because it was at the Gherkin with her and sort of getting some advice, and that was wonderful because she was the face of that and is the face of that business, and I love that bit of magic. Also talking to Neil Anderson, big shout out to Neil, really successful business guy and consultant, runs a number of businesses, and I love the way he operated. Very professional, um, really experienced, and let his experience do the talking, but was ultimately a really sound guy and never veered away from that. So I looked at some of those things that I could learn from, and that was amazing. There was another guy that I met really on in my CBG career called Aurelian, who owns Operatics, and you know, what a guy and what a business, and he probably won't expect me to say, but big shout out to him because I really respect how he's built a business because I know how hard it is, and I'm in that journey. And there's him and a guy called Dan Seabrook who, really, really, really good people who I respect, competitive to some degrees. But, I believe competition isn't isn't about whether we compete with services. It's actually about getting value and time from people and relevance. So if we're relevant, we'll win business, and if somebody else is, then they'll win that business as well. So yeah, lots of early influences of people who are running their own businesses that were absolutely key for me early on. The evolution of CBG has been really interesting. Um, in some ways, tough, and in some ways amazing, and probably intrinsically linked to my own sort of life transformation, really, in terms of what I have to do. So those two things are linked. But what is always at the core is trust, and building out trust at the core of our principles in our business. And being pragmatic and realistic around what we're trying to do. And, if we develop trust at the core, internally and externally to whoever we're working with, then we can see through the ups and downs of business and life and, work together to get the best possible outcomes. And I find that started right at the very start where I made, what I'd like to think is a good decision around bringing in the early team around people that I have been in the industry for 20 plus years, who I know to some degree really well or knew really well, where there was automatically a connection at the core of the business. Now, whilst this can't scale and grow forever, I think it's really an important observation that, having that DNA in the business around trust, whether that's a Catherine Miller, a Don Wordsworth, a Jessica Hayward, or a Chris Core, those are the key ingredients. Having the link with an amazing team member, Ludi Martin, who runs recruitment business for me. Having that link and that trust together or working together previously really helped. And I found that building that early on may have been a slower journey and a slower burn because we were providing more advisory type work. But as we've built and grown, we've got the DNA of what I'm doing right the way across my business. And I think it's very important to build that trust culture. And, that's what we need to continue to do more moving forwards. I get asked this question a lot. In these somewhat traumatic times, economically, politically, what's it like to own a business and try and grow a business, in these conditions? No doubt about it. You have to work incredibly hard, but also rely and believe in the core principles of what you're doing, in the first place. I think looking for the right market conditions to build a business, this is not realistic. I think timing, I believe in timing, but also I believe in building a business through adversity. In fact, that's how my company was put together and built. So I kind of balance my own personal adversity and also previous experience of working through particular economic downturns, adapting, growing, listening to what's happening. And I totally believe it's possible to build and grow, even in these conditions. As a business owner, which is ultimately, funded by the business that we do. I don't have a sugar daddy. I don't have, nobody's playing anything in. It is all down to me. But ultimately, I love that pressure. I love that control. And, I feel comfortable, at that helm, and having a great team around me and getting everyone, on the same page in terms of our culture and what we're trying to do and make sure everyone, understands our trust value. I look back really fondly at the journey my business or my businesses have been on. And, I'm not ashamed of some of the bumps in the road, some of the things we could have done better. It's all part of learning. No one actually knows all the answers, and all you can do is be honest and as I say, have trust at the core of everything we do. I look back and, particularly with early days with, big shout out to Steve Mullen, director, founder, and just all round best mate. And I think about all the funny stories of when we doing our first events. We based down in London. It's basically down to Steve and I to to fill a room full of really great people, and with Steve helping doing the organisation, I'd be on the phone just calling my contacts that I'd been working with for all those years to get them on board. And looking back to that, I just want to thank everyone who supported me in those early days, especially Steve, but also the clients that would come through and help me. And without them, the journey wouldn't have happened. Lots of fun times, not least when we did our early industry events where Steve and I would have gone to Black Cat, and I remember fondly spending our budget that we had set aside for the trip and also for the tickets for the show at a pool party at Encore Beach. So yeah, fun times, makes me laugh, and without them, I wouldn't have a story. So yeah, thank you everybody. Thank you so much for listening in to the CyberSoul podcast. I'm really blessed. Thank you so much. Please continue to support though. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. It really will help us build and grow the message. We've got many really cool guests to come, and yeah, once again, thank you so much. Subscribe, like, do all them things. YouTube. God bless.